Hi, welcome to Give Cheese a Chance, where I encourage you to make cheese at home. I'm Marianne. Today we're going to learn about and make Belper Knolle. But first, let's talk about how we pronounce this cheese. It's Belper Knolle. The K is not silent. The canola word is almost like how we pronounce canola, as in canola oil, but it's much more abbreviated. This cheese originated from the very small town in Switzerland called Belp. And the term Knolle is German for root or tuber. And isn't that fitting? Because don't these look like truffles, which are tubers? Belper Knolle is traditionally covered with black pepper, which I can show you here. But I've been creative and I have coated these in ground espresso beans and paprika. So I encourage you to be creative with this recipe as well. But whatever you coat these lovely balls of cheese with, the interior is going to be the same. It's going to have this beautiful white paste that has a garlicky and salty flavor, and it is divine. And the bonus of this cheese is it's really two cheeses in one. When you first make this cheese, it's rather soft. As you can see, this cheese is only 3 weeks old. So it's a little soft still, and I would eat it with some bread. It would be delicious. And as it ages, it loses moisture and becomes smaller. So this one is 3 months old, it's much more firm, and this one is 5 months old, and it is not soft anymore. It's rather hard, so you would use this cheese differently than a younger version. For this one, I would probably grate it, as many chefs do, over pasta or eggs or any other food. It's much more intense in flavor, and you're just going to enjoy this cheese at any age. So let's make Belper Knolle at home. So on the first day of making this cheese, we want to add 8 liters or 2 gallons of cow's milk, whole cow's milk, to a large pot. This recipe really works best with raw cow's milk, but I don't have access to raw cow's milk where I live in the suburbs. So I'm going to show you that it works just fine using a pasteurized and homogenized milk that I got from my local grocery store. So if you do have access to raw milk, that's great. If you don't, it's okay. Use whatever milk you can find. Just don't use ultra pasteurized milk. It won't work. Stay away from ultra pasteurized milk whenever you do any cheese making projects. If you are going to be using milk that has been processed, then you do need to add some calcium back into the milk, because anytime a milk is processed, it loses calcium. This is a concentrated calcium chloride solution, so I'm going to be adding some calcium back into the milk to create a better cheese. I'm going to dilute my concentrated calcium chloride solution with some non-chlorinated water. Add 1/4 teaspoon of calcium chloride liquid into a 1/2 cup of non-chlorinated water and mix. So let's add our milk to the pot. I'm going to add my diluted calcium liquid into the milk and give it a good stir. And then I'm going to slowly and gently heat this milk to 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius over a 15-minute period. And make sure that you stir the milk every few minutes so that the warmer milk on the bottom mixes with the cooler milk on the top. So we've hit our target temperature of 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius. It's time to turn off the heat. And we want to add our bacterial culture to this milk. I'm using Flora Danica, which is a freeze-dried blend of different bacteria that is normally found in raw milk. It's going to give this cheese a great flavor. If you don't have Flora Danica, you can use another mesophilic blend such as MM100. It'll work really great. So sprinkle onto the surface of the milk a 1/4 teaspoon of freeze-dried bacterial culture like Flora Danica. We want to allow this freeze-dried culture to sit on the surface of the milk and rehydrate for about 2 to 3 minutes before mixing it in. So while we're waiting, we're going to dilute our rennet. We don't need a lot of rennet in this recipe. We just need 6 drops of double-strength liquid rennet added to a half a cup of non-chlorinated water. So now we take our diluted rennet mixture and add it to the pot and mix everything, including the bacterial culture that's sitting on top, for 1 minute. And now that everything is mixed, we want to let this milk and bacterial culture incubate for 18 hours. Now we want to keep it warm, but sooner or later it's going to come to room temperature, and that's okay. To keep it warm, you can wrap your whole pot in a big thick blanket and put it in a corner of your kitchen. But what I like to do, I like to put it into an oven with no heat whatsoever, and I always make sure to add a sign so that nobody turns on the oven accidentally. So I'll see you in 18 hours. Well, it's the second day and I've taken my pot out of the oven. You might be unwrapping yours from a large blanket. So let's take a look inside the pot. Wow, what a difference. You can see that the milk has turned into more like a very thick yogurt texture. I can see some cracks, that's a very good sign. And there's some yellowy clear liquid, which is the whey, that has separated from the curd mass itself. Excellent, that means we're ready to proceed. If you find the curd mass is a little bit too soft still, go ahead, put the pot back in the oven or wrap it up with some blankets again. Let it sit for another 6 or 8 hours. I've let it go as long as 24 hours before. That's the good thing about this recipe. It's very flexible. The timing can go a few hours either way and you'll still get a great result. So now that I know this curd is ready for draining, I want to get out my cheese making fabric. I'm using a butter muslin today, which is great. It's got a perfect texture for allowing the whey or clear liquid to separate away from the white cheese curd. If you don't have a piece of butter muslin, you can use an old pillowcase that you have reserved just for your cheese making projects. You really want to make sure not to wash your cheese making fabrics with your regular clothes though, and don't use any detergent on them. I just fill a sink of really hot water and then I hand wash it several times, changing the water. So that's how you clean your cheese making fabrics. Don't put it in the regular wash with your jeans and your towels. It's important to sterilize your cheese making fabric before we strain the curd. So just fill up a pot with some hot water, bring it to a boil, and submerge your fabric in the hot boiling water for 15 minutes and then let it cool. And once it's cooled, it's time to line the largest strainer that you can find in your kitchen or a colander with the sterilized fabric. So I've lined my fabric in the sink and I'm ready to transfer all of my curd into my colander here. You're going to probably have to top up the amount in your strainer a few times over an hour period just to fit it all in. When all the curd is in, then tie up the corners of the fabric from your sink faucet and let it hang there for 1 day. Every so often, come by and give the bag a little squeeze to move the curd around for better drainage. You really want to remove a lot of moisture. If you find after 1 day of draining that the curd is still not thick, then give it a good squeeze and let it hang another 24 hours. I let this one hang for 2 whole days at room temperature to get a thick enough curd. I've brought my cheese curds over to my counter. It's time to make a garlic paste that we are going to mix with our cheese. So for that, I need 6 cloves of peeled garlic and 6 teaspoons of salt. Ideally, you should use pink Himalayan salt for this recipe, but a great substitute is a cheese salt. This is a non-iodized salt, so we need 6 teaspoons. And I'm going to pound them to a puree. You don't want to have any chunks of garlic left in this bowl. It should be a very smooth paste when you're done. Now, of course, the garlic is going to give a great taste to this cheese, but the salt is used here as a way to kill any bacteria that are lingering around on your raw garlic. So we're going to let the salt do its work by leaving this bowl for 15 minutes. And in that time, we are going to take our cheese curds out of the bag. It's been 15 minutes now, so I'm going to transfer my garlic salt paste into my cheese and mix it up. Oh, it smells so good. Belper Knolle is always coated in a black pepper. So I've made a few here that are coated in black pepper. They're going to be my traditional Belper Knolle. But I'm also going to be a little creative, and I'm going to roll some in some other coatings. I'm going to roll some with smoked paprika, some also in a ground espresso coffee, which was taught to me by my friend Heather Barnes, who introduced me to this recipe a while ago. So here I've got some balls. I'm going to coat it in some espresso. It's really going to make it look like a black truffle when it's finished. An espresso flavored cream cheese. How good is that? We've made a total of 9 cheeses with 3 different flavors. There's 3 that are the traditional Belper Knolle with the black pepper, 3 which have a coating of smoked paprika, and 3 that are coated with ground espresso. Now that I've coated all of the cheeses, I need to air dry them at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. I've even put a fan on these cheeses to give them more air circulation, and I'm making sure to turn them frequently to keep their round shape, especially in the first few days. Then they have to go into a regular 4 degrees Celsius or 40 degree Fahrenheit fridge or a cheese cave to ripen for 2 to 6 weeks. You can even let these cheeses age for several months. The balls will shrink in size and harden as they age over time because they will lose moisture, and the flavor will intensify over time too. Well, it's been 4 weeks now since we made our batch of Belper Knolle, which means it's taste testing time. So I've brought out our Belper Knolle, which we made, and I've also brought out my older version of Belper Knolle. These are now 6 months old. So I'm going to try and show you that the texture from the younger version is quite different than the older version. So let's cut into our Belper Knolle. First, let's cut into the traditional younger Belper Knolle, which is covered with black pepper. Wow. Look at that. Oh, it smells garlicky, but not overpowering. And you can smell the black pepper as well. Unfortunately, I'm slightly allergic to black pepper, so I'm not going to take a taste of this one. Too bad. But I wish you could try it. I am going to take a taste of the other 2, though. So let's cut into the Belper Knolle, which is covered with ground espresso. This is the one that's only 4 weeks, so it still is soft, but look at that. It looks beautiful. Let me have a taste. Oh, wow. It smells amazing. It's, oh my God. It is garlicky. And then you get this hit of coffee flavor. That is very tasty. So let's cut into the 6-month-old espresso rubbed Belper Knolle. It's really hard. Wow. This would be great for grating on pasta. Look at that. It's quite firm. So let's take a taste. It's drier, and the flavor of the ground espresso is also there. It's delicious. Oh, that is so good. It's like a complex flavor there because you've got a lot of things going on, but they're not competing with each other. They're just balancing each other out. Well, that's delicious. Okay, let's cut into the 6-month-old paprika covered Belper Knolle as well. Oh, again, it's quite firm. Wow, look at that. It's much more flaky. You can have little pieces and you can see why chefs use this to grate. Again, you can taste the garlicky interior and the paprika is more mild. It's not as pronounced as the espresso version. Wow. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video tutorial on how to make Belper Knolle cheese at home, the cheese that looks like a truffle. If you did, please click the like button below and make sure you hit subscribe so you can see my videos in the future. For Give Cheese a Chance, I'm Marianne. Happy cheese making.